Oh, wait, that's something else. Oh, hey! I didn't see you there. The trilogy of the better-known games of the Elder Scrolls is often seen by the community as being on the scale of depth and accessibility. Morrowind is very intricate, both in ways to make your character and in story, then Skyrim being more accessible but very shallow in the same areas. Oh, and Oblivion being in a strange middle ground. So you have the scale of game design between new and old ethos. But what's this? The slider keeps going. There's gotta be more games at the end of this. We just gotta follow it. Look! Elder Scrolls, Elder Scrolls, Elder Scrolls, Scrolls? Careful now. That's not the Elder Scrolls you know. Not entirely. Not anymore. There may be familiarities, but this is a different beast. Like what? There's no quest log or something? We're doing the Unity version of the game, which was made by a fan. Daggerfall's already free on several platforms. Then you just plug it into the Unity thing. It's not too hard, just searching online will answer any questions you might have. The very first thing that happens is an option window to tweak things to either make the jump back in time more manageable or keep things as it was. There's a few things I checked off because they seem good that may have not been in the base game, from an arrow counter or lighting effects, to even enabling enemy infighting and a better indicator for when you're low on health. So this isn't an in-depth review of Daggerfall by itself as released, and whether or not the lack of these features adds or removes from the player's sense of unease and isolation. Don't get me wrong, I do appreciate things like that, but this is more focused on the game as you can play it now. Just know that there are a plethora of quality of life things that do things like simply making menu navigation easier. It also makes it way more stable. You can Alt-Tab, and it'll still work just fine. I know, right? Character creation has tons and tons of customization. In addition to tweaking your stats and skills, you can also fiddle with more esoteric things. Let's start with the skill advancement bar. It measures how quickly your skills will increase, and it goes up and down based on how many advantages and disadvantages you give yourself in this character creator. So if you want a slower leveling experience, you can make yourself real cool out of the gate, but with 2 times slower skill leveling. Or some kind of anemic savant. HP per level is self-explanatory. Well, it isn't. It determines the maximum amount of health that you could get on level up. So really the average level up is itself divided by 2. The advantages and disadvantages are more in depth. You can make yourself more resistant or susceptible to different types of damage. There are perks that play with light, like affecting your spell casting in darkness or sunlight. You can give yourself bonuses or penalties to specific types of enemies, specialize in or forbid yourself from using different weapons and armor. You can change how many points of magicka you can get per intelligence. There's one for being familiar with certain environments, one that makes churches damage you, one that makes you afraid of the undead. There's so much. Some of these are admittedly a little redundant. There are already long blade and hand-to-hand skills that I can choose to invest in or ignore. So in terms of game design, why do there need to be these character creator perks about it as well? But I'm not complaining. This is fun. Also, a lot of these were spruced up in the Unity mod. Many just didn't really do anything beforehand. Also, despite being an earlier game, the races have less powerful benefits. It used to be if you wanted to be a wizard, you needed to be a high elf or Breton. Now anyone has access to larger mana pools. Different races don't get different base stats, and race traits are still fitting and flavorful. And we're still not done, though there isn't too much left. There's a reputation slider for different groups. So instead of coming in as a nobody, your character may have had a political or criminal history that you can express through this. There's so much room for creative freedom here. You can make just about anything. A demon, a chaotic rebel, an incredibly introverted nobleman, a wizard that gets their powers from the sun. You could spend an hour on just this screen. The pre-made classes have these things already set up as well, but you know, who picks those? I've got 2 notes. First is that there's no tooltips for anything, not even the main stats. You can guess what endurance does, sorta, but it would be nice to get the details. Thankfully, you can easily Alt-Tab out to read a wiki. Second, while there's lots of freedom to make a character that you want, there's also the gamey aspect that's hiding behind the curtain. Certain choices move the dagger there a lot, and some not so much. And by nature, there will be some mechanics and weapons more important in the game, and some less. What I ended up doing was finding a guide that went through things saying, hey, paralysis is really easy to manage, so we can put on critical weakness for that good amount of meter. The max mana is insanely good, even if you're not a wizard. The only differences between melee weapons is damage, so you can just go long blade since it's the best, but if you want to be flavorful, go pick whatever you want. All the language skills are garbage, so is lock picking since you can't bash open all locks. Medical sounds nice, but it's garbage too. Alright. This part's my favorite. Language skills give a slight chance to pacify the related creature. Who cares? Kill it. After I went through the guide, I had a much better grasp of things, and a strong character to start with. But then I realized I just sucked a lot of the magic and exploration out of things. This is gonna be a weird tangent, but I just deprived myself from, the journey, the joy and hardships of finding these things out for myself, and tuning things, even if it meant restarting my character. Is that weird? Needing to restart your character is usually a sign of bad game design, but I don't know, I don't get that feeling as much. It's sort of like getting a fresh start, a new beginning, and you can experience your growth as both your knowledge of the game and a better built character helps you. On the other hand, I'm almost objectively in a better position than if I didn't read the guide. The cryptic nature of the character creation menu and that balancing was certainly going to be jank, necessitating me reaching out for a guide before even starting to play the game. I wasn't too fussed about min-maxing, and I wanted a slower leveling experience anyway. But it got me thinking, how do you offer this kind of freedom without pushing the player to a guide and removing that magic? The player could put it on themselves not to look up anything, but I mean, come on, let's be reasonable. Future games in the series would slowly take out more and more systems to streamline things, but that gets rid of the magic in a different way. I'm thinking the best way is to reduce the need to open up a browser as much as possible by having more information in-game, thereby reducing the chances of coming across a guide. The character creator is devoid of tooltips, remember? There's a help button, but it just tells you to read the manual. It's a weird feeling. I'm both thankful and resentful to the guide. You know, this kind of feeling happens a lot more than you might notice. We're not sure how to feel about something. That confused feeling can cause its own headache. There's like this unspoken assumption within ourselves that we have to feel one way or the other about something. But the truth is that we often feel multiple ways about things, and that they can clash. It sounds obvious, now that it's spoken out loud, doesn't it? Like, yeah, of course. Thing is, lots of irrational behaviors can keep going until they get pointed out. Brains are weird like that. A lot of mental stuff is accepting truths about how things don't have to be one way or the other. And when you start letting go of ideas like that, stuff starts falling into place by themselves. Anyway, the final statement is that there's lots of skills and bonuses for fluff and roleplay, but the game does not have the mechanical depth to justify them. Even after the character creation screen, you still get a little quiz on how much you want your character's background to be like. It's so fluffy, I love it. There's so much emphasis on making your character yours and getting immersed in the world. I'd be willing to give up a lot of modern day gaming's facets to get some of this fluff back. Streamlining, in-game animated sequences, voice acting, detail. A box with text in it is beholden to no budget constraints and is capable of anything. Oh, and choose super fast reflexes. It's using 90s RPG's measure of speed, so it's more like what Oblivion is normally. Or hey, jump down to fast if you want a calmer experience. But finally, we're done. I have my own character, and it's well and truly mine. And look. When you click history on your character sheet, it generated a backstory for you based on your skills and answer to that quiz. It's so fun! Melee is kinda freaky in Daggerfall. In Morrowind, the direction you're moving will change what melee attack you do, a chop, slash, or thrust. A setting option could set it so it would just always use the best one for the weapon though. Here, we're regressing further into primordial gameplay. Let's try and swing our sword. First, hold down the right mouse button, yeah? Now move your mouse in a direction, and your character swings. The direction determines what type of attack you do, chop, pierce, slash. And these moves have different damage and hit chances. Hey game, what are those damage and hit chances? I don't know, you better go find out! You can also just hold down right click and swing away. If this is too archaic for you, the mod does have a setting to turn it into either a click to get a random attack, or hold down the button to spam out random attacks. The setting is right there when you boot up the game, so you know how popular that mechanic is. There is no blocking or power attacks in this game, so melee combat is either hopping in and out of enemy range to attack, or just rushing in there flailing. To do that first one efficiently, you gotta hold down the sprint button while you do it. Yeah, sprint! A feature taken out of the next 2 games and put back in 15 years later. A mechanic we associate with modern gaming ever since Call of Duty hit big, and it's just here, hanging out. But anyway, melee combat got way more interesting once everything started to click. It felt like I had a lot of control and getting hurt was more my fault. Before that though, it was obtuse and shallow, so use that shift key. I still could only hit one enemy at a time with melee, so I also dabbled in spells. Interacting is also weird. There are different interacting modes that you have to switch in between to change what you want to do with an object or NPC that can be interacted with. I wonder what the decision behind that was like. Did they try having one button and changing how you interact based on the object type and player state, and they just couldn't figure it out? Maybe it was how game design was back then, that this method was the school of thought of the period. Inventory management follows the same train, so I'm thinking it was that. Now, I can't tell you about all aspects of gameplay. I kinda just made a fighter guy. But what about sneaking? You would play the whole game and make a review without touching on it at all? And what of archery? And alchemy? Or a speech character? This isn't thorough at all.
Come on.
Yeah, come on. Alright, that's it. Everyone out. Come on, all of you. Yep, you,
All
leave.
right, okay.
Doors that way. Yeah, don't think I don't see you. All of you. Come on.
All right, okay.
You two.
I'm going.
Get
I'm
out,
going.
get out,
All
get
right.
out.
All
Leave.
right,
Leave
we're
me
leaving,
alone.
We're leaving. Okay.
Finally, I can hear myself think. 3D map. Whoa! Behold, the tutorial dungeon in all its glory. What do you see? Expansive, non-linear, elevation. This is a dungeon to delve, and nearly all of them are just as nuanced. Exploration is fantastic. You can really get lost in these. Tunnels will sprawl all around and loop back into larger chambers, and with it this feeling of really progressing through a level as you uncover its secrets. Definitely try the trick where you hug a wall. It is a maze after all. There's a built-in note-taking system, as well as map markers. Neat. And that's just the dungeons. Now we're outside. Let's take a look at the map. So we get this vague Mediterranean-looking thing, without anything on it. Oh, what if we click on one of these little zones? All those dots? Those are places that you can go to. Let's zoom back out. Are you getting that feeling setting in? This game is fucking massive! What heroin snorters made this? Who made a giant map with lots of things in it and said, yeah, that's pretty good, let's make 20 more. They're not all right next to each other either. Yeah, each micro square on the map is surprisingly big. Get a horse, and quick. You can even buy boats. It doesn't really do anything you didn't already have access to, but it's there, just to add a little bit of fluff to... What's that? What are you even doing here?
Your money or your life.
I don't think I'm supposed to be here. Uh-oh. Look at the size of this first city. Multiple inns, houses you can all go into. A plethora of guilds, all types of shops. And you don't know what something is until you go in. Then it gets marked on your map, so there's this little mini game where you're sent to a place and you don't know where something is. So you gotta ask the townsfolk, and hey, maybe they don't know where it is, or sometimes they do know, but just the general direction. So you go that way and either intuit it out, or or ask around some more. It'll also be parts of quests. The Fighters Guild sent me to protect someone, but when I got there they were already dead, with a signed note on them. I go back to the quest giver, but he doesn't want to talk. And I figure out I'm supposed to ask people about the name on the note to track them down myself. It's a small, fun little puzzling process that breaks up the gameplay loop a bit, and also gets you immersed more. It's genius. It's also a good way to make personality and speech skills worth anything. Otherwise, with the Unity mod, people are absurdly rude. Weirdo. None of your damn business. I don't give a damn. Frickin' player race. Boy liker. Evil. What? Foul. What did he call me? Stupid. Oh, by the way, if you're sent to a specific person's residence, asking for that is under general. Daggerfall is just jam-packed to the brim and overflowing with stuff. More sprawling dungeons than you can possibly explore, a plethora of cities with houses unending, teeming with townsfolk, miles of land with churches and dungeons and graveyards and what have you, sprinkled throughout its hills and forests and mountains. As the shock of realizing just how stupidly huge the game is, it started to subside. I started to realize some things. Started to have a thinking. The houses you can go in almost never have anything in them of note, and I never went into another without being prompted after the first to go, oh cool, and leave. The townspeople you can talk to all say the same things, with some randomly generated difference. Those churches and towns and houses spread throughout the world are usually indistinct from the other churches, towns, and houses. Even those dungeons are procedurally generated, not by the game, by the devs when they were making the game, and then they put those procedurally generated dungeons into the game. You know what I mean? After comparing it to later entries in the system, I feel like there's two schools of thought. Making a world to be immersed in versus making a world to be played, or sandbox versus theme park. Making a world to be immersed in would have that fluff and scale at the cost of repetition and less memorable, tailor-made content. A world to be played would be more densely packed with, hopefully, more memorable content, at the cost of being more gamey and smaller. Now there's gonna be a lot of overlap. Oh, pizza's ready. Now there's gonna be a lot of overlap here. You can try and make a game with tailor-made content and still try to make it immersive, but there will inevitably be more importance placed on either one of these design visions. Whichever one is more important comes down to both the designer and the player who's seeking out the game. But that's a boring answer, so let me try and tell you how it goes from my perspective. My favorite things in this series is fighting dudes, progressing my character, dungeon delving, and exploring. Things like story and NPC relations take a distant backseat, though I still like getting immersed in the world, if that makes sense. In Skyrim, I do remember some of the set pieces in the dungeons and world. They were entertaining, but I was still exploring dungeons for its own sake. Skyrim dungeons tend to be very, very linear, perhaps in order to facilitate these tailor-made experiences, but in my opinion it wasn't worth the trade, if that was the case. And hey, let's just sit down, gamer to gamer, being honest and open. Skyrim dungeons may as well have been procedurally generated, right? They were stitched together using assets, and there's nothing wrong with that, mind you. I just feel like was a lot of potential that was missed. That's not even mentioning Oblivion's cube mazes. The world also felt a bit more barren, despite teeming with handcrafted levels. Many locations that weren't handcrafted were cut out. Cities only having a few handfuls of buildings and citizens. Civilization outside of cities is sparse. On the other hand, a lot of Skyrim's dungeons had their own story to tell as you went through them. While I didn't appreciate it, maybe a lot of people did. The opportunity to tell stories like that starts to go away when you go from 200 dungeons to 4,200? What? Why is this the best game ever made? Man, fuck Skyrim. It does procedurally generated quests anyways. Fuck everything I was just saying. And to talk about the dungeons more, I have to stress what a cool feeling it is to have something not be linear and be given choices on how I want to explore. And the huge map and cities makes me feel like I'm a small person on a grand adventure in a real world. Man, just procedurally generate everything. Why doesn't everyone do this? The tutorial is implemented in a pretty fun way. It's unconventional for an unconventional game. After the first dungeon, it comes back over the course of game days and weeks to tell you about the facets of the game and what you should do next, like a parent checking in every now and then. Make sure you pick up the free action spell quick from the Mages Guild. If you thought Morrowind was bad with paralyzing you and tickling you to death, Daggerfall paralyzes you and runs you over. By the way, rotate your saves. I was sent to this necromancer's tomb, and I dropped down this hall, and there were 3 different death traps down there. I couldn't get back out of the hole without levitate, which I didn't have, so I had to go back to my save outside the dungeon. Imagine saving after one of those 3 death traps, and that being the only save to go back to. You would have to restart the game. You get to choose which divine you follow, if at all. Churches are throughout the land, but only the one you've been initiated in will offer services greater than curing diseases. No quest markers. Morrowind didn't have them either, so it wasn't unique to Daggerfall, but it's still a good conversation to have. So, in the gameplay loop, you're given a place to go and an objective to do there. Before you can do any delving or talking, you need to find out exactly where the location you need to be is. In Daggerfall, that's done by checking the quest log for directions, narrowing down where it is and checking your maps, and if you're going to a city, you'll need to ask around for directions too. It's this fun little mini-game I talked about before of sleuthing around. I feel like it's a really natural way to break up gameplay, but there needs to be systems like searchable maps and townspeople to facilitate the minigame. Later games elected to remove this system in favor of streamlining quest markers. When you're cutting out game systems, I think either one of 2 things is going on. Either the system being cut out is far less fun than the usual gameplay, and we're just cutting off the fat to make a better all-around experience, or the devs cannot reasonably implement the system anymore. Think of changes like the jump to 3D, voice acting, that weird shit with NPC schedules, or core gameplay shifts. Now, as someone on the outside looking inside, I can't really make any assumptions if it was that they couldn't make a non-quest marker system work anymore. Given the reputation Bethesda games have, I wouldn't be too surprised. So if the idea was getting rid of it so that there's no busy work between experiencing the combat, the story, or the exploration, then man, what a horrible decision. Like, I hope I don't need to go through the song and dance of explaining that neither the combat nor the story of Oblivion and Skyrim aren't good. And exploration, it was exploration. Well, you're gonna take away my agency as a player so I can focus on walking at a JPEG? You took the grease out of my pizza thinking it would be better that way. Put it back, you made it worse. Come on, you stupid horse, go faster. In terms of graphics and art, there's not too much to talk about. Well, other than the nudity, of course. Things are flat and generic. What's worse is that there's very little variety. This leads to dungeons feeling even more painfully repetitive than they already were. I fucking love MIDIs so much. I love stock sound effects. I love audio jank. There's something so earnest about it. Like, yeah, it's scuffed, but we're doing our best to make it fun and exciting for you. It's got character. Make sure you turn on the improved soundtrack in the options. Then it plays higher quality instruments, and more instruments are added that weren't able to play before. This is what sound cards used to be used for. The Windows default sound bank had awful sounding instruments, and could only play a small amount at once. Locations of dungeons aren't available right out of the gate. You'd think with 4,000 you'd be tripping over them, but the game's the size of Australia, remember? There's also no landmarks to pique your interest and follow, and dungeon entrances are usually these content mounds, so they're hard to spot. So what the game does is it gives you maps that put their location on your super map. Then you can look it up through there. These directions can be rewards from quests, advancing in a guild, or even dropped from enemies. That's such a cool system, having further adventures be a reward for playing the game. There's no sneaking as you know it. Instead of activating a sneak button to sneak, crouch just makes you crouch. Your stealth skill is always checked, crouching or not, so every character will inevitably be leveling up stealth somewhat. Then your chance of success is tempered with things like how fast you're moving and what kind of armor you're wearing. There's also no sneak attacks. Instead, there's backstabbing, which is its own skill that you can level. I kinda like this idea. The sneak attack is still there, almost untouched, but now there's also this added combat goal and reward of getting behind the enemy. Granted, since this game is from the Mesozoic era, that mostly just involves Tokyo drifting around an auto-attacking sprite, but the potential is there. It's sort of like, you know, those other games, but instead of being such a massive damage, crowd control, invincibility, and positioning reward for a relatively simple action, it's just a nice little bonus. You can, however, sprint at full speed while crouching. So there's that. Quests are really free form. I sorta spoke about it before. They'll tell you where to go and what to do, but it's left vague enough where it's up to you, the player, to connect the pieces. I like it. It adds a bit of meat to even the most mundane, go here and kill this quest. There'll still be NPCs to meet and intrigue to find out, especially in the main quest, but most of the time it's you, your wits, and the world. That's really up my alley. I dig that isolated, treacherous feeling where I'm left to my own devices. Now that doesn't mean these are like the Radiant stuff in Skyrim. There are still stories and scripted events that happen. It's just the who and where is randomly chosen, depending on where you pick up the quest. The game is putting its hand in the mountain of locations it has, and fishing a few out. The main story is similarly more freeform. It starts with a cutscene.
Destroy King Lysander's spirit. No. Find letter.
By the way, this is the same Uriel the Seventh that sends the Morrowind character to Morrowind, the same Uriel the Seventh that gets trapped in a pocket dimension in the first game, and the same Uriel the Seventh that fucking dies in Oblivion.
You chose a bad. You thought we'd go down easy?
The guy got around. Hey, speaking of timelines, this game involves the events that make orcs citizens of the Empire rather than random enemies you find in dungeons. And it takes place not even 30 years before Oblivion. So let that shape your understanding of Tamrielic racial relations. Anyway, afterwards you're just let loose into the world to try and figure out how to stop Ghost find letter. Okay, it's not that open. You pretty much just get letters saying, hey, come do this quest. But there's gaps of time between getting these where you're left to your own devices, and it's left entirely up to you what to do with that time. Don't be afraid to open up a guide for the main quest. Mandatory quests can be easy to miss, and saying no to certain quests can lock you out of completing the main quest. Just don't peek too far. Quests will also have, get this, time limits. That may have just set off some alarm bells, so hear me out. So I go to the Fighters Guild, I ask for some work, and they say, we need you to kill a werewolf. The quest is in town. It was already going to be the next thing I immediately would do, if there wasn't a time limit anyway. But the guildmaster, he says, it needs to be done in 14 days. Now, there's an increased sense of urgency sprinkled in, yet nothing changed in how I played the game. Even the main quest will have things like, come see me here, but I can only stay for a month. As you start to get used to quests having an expiration date, you start to realize, oh, time doesn't pass that fast, and I actually have a lot more time than I thought. And that slight panic goes away. But there's still that illusion that this world can and will move without you. It's immersive, and it's such a tiny little thing added on. It's genius. Sometimes you do miss those deadlines. It's fine. Quest givers will just give you another one. Even if it was a main story quest, the intrigue and actors are still playing, even if your character failed to do one thing. Quick tips: to climb, there's climbing by the way, just walk into a wall and it'll activate. And there's hidden doors everywhere, so make sure you're wall humping. Dungeons being super sprawling is cool, just the fact that you can get lost in them is fun. What's less fun is trying to find your way out again, especially in places with teleporters. It is a little fun because you're looking around the map trying to spot the path back, and it's a skill you get better at. But with these enormous maps, it can be a very stale task. I think if these kinds of levels were ever to be implemented again, there would have to be an "okay, I'm done now" button that just picks you up and shunks you back to the entrance. I wasn't even able to get out of the first dungeon I went into. There's Recall, a mysticism spell, so look into that. Or, and only use this when you really have to, open up the console and type tele to exit. Don't feel bad about using it. Sometimes dungeons will have secrets behind pulling torches, which, when these maps are the size of college campuses, is really mean. So click on those as you pass by. The game has scaling. Scaling usually takes away a lot of what I like about games. What's the point of having gear and skill progression if everything just matches me anyway? I'm not questing for great items in treacherous locations, I'm getting my scheduled dwarven mace from an indistinct loot dispenser. Now I'm not exploring and overcoming a world. The world is starting to revolve around me, which I don't like. Now I can see the glowing exit signs. We're legally required to have those visible. Oh, okay, that's what you're gonna be like? It's not as existentially horrifying as Oblivion scaling, but it gets close. It's a whine with hints of leveled lists. At first it's implemented fairly well, I thought. Enemies were a challenge. While I still came across easier foes, I could still stumble across baddies that would fold me in half. Then you get to a dungeon seemingly populated with nothing but liches. And then you get to a dungeon seemingly populated with nothing but ancient liches. For psychopaths willing to sacrifice anything to attain ultimate power, they seem to get along with each other really well. Well, that brings up the question. With the game as big as this, how on earth are you not supposed to scale things? I don't know, surely you could do something. Maybe have progression of the story and levels follow the curve of the Iliac Bay. Maybe stagger things out so we don't get Ancient Lich surprise parties. Magic scales off of your level, which none of the later games do. Not sure why. It seems like such a simple solution. Maybe it was a balancing nightmare. To touch on the size of the map again, there's nothing in it. At least not in between the locations. What I usually do in these games is walk towards a quest or location and do everything along the way. Trying to do that here really hammered in how massive the game is. I spent minutes on a horse going one direction, coming across nothing. I opened the map and I've shifted over 2 squares. Now I know why dungeon locations drop as loot. What ends up happening is you just menu travel everywhere, which defeats the purpose of the big huge world, and makes things feel small and cut off from each other again. It's a strange world you go through, trying to put the king's soul to rest, and... what else? Oh yeah, the letter! Letter for ya. Ow! Hey, bring this letter to the Necromancer King, so I can get married. They will try to kill you. Okay? Thanks. The orcs have the letter.
Letter for ya.
Ah!
Get a soul for me, please.
Why didn't you ask me when I was there?
Thanks. So the Underking is Tiber Septim's wizard, who he betrayed, but his soul's still here because of the Numidium.
We already had this plotline this game. Wait, what's the Numidium? Hey, Queenie, the letter... You can't do this quest yet. Oh.
What? But I delivered the letter to the Queen of Dagger...
Yeah, I know. Hey, Queenie, the letter's with the orcs. Ow! Take this letter to them. Can I have the letter?
If you can find it.
Okay. Ah, shit. Someone found Tiber Septim's totem. You know what that means. No, I don't. Letters for you. Oh, thanks. Hey, sport, I hear you're asking about the Numidium. Well... Look, we found this thing in Morrowind. Use my... soul to power it, and this totem to control it. What the fuck is that? Hey, you can't just bully us around. You got it, man. We're neutral. Hey, Tiber Septim, you're drunk on power from the Numidium. I'm gonna stop you. I'm taking my soul back. No, I need that. Oh. Hey, let's rebuild the Numidium. Yay! Woohoo! Yeah, yippee! I really gotta find my soul again so I can die for real. I will use the Numidium and become very powerful. Oh, damn. Letter for you. Oh. Dearest fellow agent, Daggerfall has the totem! Ah! Here it is. Bitch. Come here. Boa tarde, amigo. I'm gonna send you to another dimension, okay, sweetie? You were already there? Oh, that's what that place was. Well done, dearie. So, who's getting the Numidium? Well, that would depend on the quest lines I followed and factions I supported throughout. Oh no! The dragon broke! The what? The fuck is going on over there? Oof, the Godhead's not gonna like this. Oh, don't you start with that. By the way, the game explicitly states that only royalty or supernatural folk can use the Numidium. So one of the canon endings is our boy Uriel here stomping around the Iliad Bay in a fucking giant robot. On the cool scale, it's rather sick. The scale is awesome, yet the repetition betrays it. The fluff and roleplay is warm and inviting, yet in practice the game is mechanically shallow. Dungeons are gargantuan, yet the gameplay isn't fun enough to justify them. It's a curious memento of a different age, where different values were held. I do truly believe that there is a lot that could be learned looking back at these archaic games. They have strengths that aren't seen today. New technology and techniques are always fun, so it can be hard to spot what's sacrificed for them. Oh, and massive praise to everyone who helped port Daggerfall to Unity, allowing a whole new audience to experience it. A monumental labor of love.